In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, Mr. Mavs draft Richard Stayman is going to drop off his big board. Last week, my brother James dropped off his big board. Leaf is going to give us his big board within the next day or two. But today is all about Richard and his top 10 NBA prospects. We may be able to squeeze in one or two more, but this is all about Richard's top 10. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board. And my co-host, as mentioned, is Richard Stayman. Richard is known as the clip guy, known for putting the clips on Twitter, or I guess it's called X now. But he's been with, since we were NBA, what was it? NBA, Locked On NBA Draft, yep. NBA Big Board, well known in the draft community. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe, like, share, comment, help us grow the channel, which has been doing well. We've been growing, and the feedback on YouTube has been interesting. Of course, you know, people have different takes and so on, but the communication and the dialogue is always fun. So anyway, let's just get right into it. How long did it take you to make this big board? Was it an easy one, or was it a difficult one? Do you feel like the top 10 is pretty fluid right now? What's your early thoughts?
You know, a year ago this time, I would have been having so much fun with it because there's so many different creative ways to go about it with like Wemby's number 1, but I had Scoot number 2. But after that, it was like a huge window where there were so many talented guys where you're like, look, any other year, we'd be talking about this guy in the like 1 or 2 spots higher than where they are. And I thought that was so much fun. This year, it's not that. I've been doing this all year, so it's been what is that, like 6 months, I guess, since ever the last draft. Yeah. And it's still not my favorite top 10 I've ever put out. So I'm excited. I'm not confident, but I'm confident at the same time. I'm confident in being not confident. If that makes sense. And let's do it.
Yeah, I actually like this draft. I felt last year I knew Wemby was number 1. I thought Brandon Miller was number 2, and I was going against the grain. I had Gigi Jackson in my top 5 at one point. I had a lot of questions about last year's class. This year's class, I feel like it's a little. It's hard to say. Like, I actually think that you could be a top 5 pick in this year's draft and spend a significant amount of time in the G League. So I think fit is going to be important with this class. I do think Alex Sarr is going to go number 1. I have a hard time seeing a situation where he gets passed up. But yeah, I mean, this class is fun to me because it's all over the place, right? And there could be a guy that you're high on that gets drafted at 25, and he could end up being first-team all-rookie. This class is that crazy. Now, I will say, if you're a parent, if you're an agent, or a player in this class, you got to be stressed out because, I mean, you could go 15. There's not much difference between 15 through like 60. Usually I'll say 15 through like 35, but 15 through 60. I mean, there's like, I'll use Kobe Johnson, for example. If he shoots the ball well for the rest of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a first-round pick. If he stays at like 37% from the floor and 28% from 3, I could see a situation where if he were to decide to come out, he goes undrafted. That is a huge range. So anyway, I digress. All right, who is the top guy on your big board so far?
Yeah, I'm sticking with, here's my thing. I think Alex Sarr, I agree with you. I think he will be the number 1 pick. I have him, just spoiler alert, number 2, but I have somebody else who I just haven't seen enough for me to unseat him as my number 1. He was my preseason number 1. There's not enough for me to say, yeah, he's dropped, and that's Ron Holland. I'm a really big believer. I think with him, you look at just the ideal frame, depending on how you measure him with or without shoes, he's anywhere from 6'6" to 6'8", seen all 3 heights listed. But on top of that, I think his defense, his motor, a lot of what he does and what he brings to the table will be helped by when he adds strength and how much of a work ethic he has, which by all accounts from that I've seen, strong work ethic. And I think that's where his jump shot will get helped. So if you're looking at 2 areas that have been considered somewhat not great, and also in the G League, it's really hard to play defense just because you can name on one hand probably how many guys actually try very hard every single possession. with an up tempo G League. So I'm all in on Ron Holland still. I think he's going to be a great player.
He's dropped significantly for me. I just don't know like what his NBA role is. Like I think he's and it's I mean, people are probably gonna be critical. I think he's greatly benefited from the freestyling up and down play of the G League. There's absolutely zero pressure to win games. He can score 20 points when they're down 30. It's like to me, I think Sarr has a bigger impact, and I think Sarr is more projectable, just because I think you can project Sarr. Like, how does Ron Holland look in a lower usage role for me is like my big question. But Ron is young; he's only 18 years old, one of the younger players in the draft. It's very interesting because and I like the fact that you've stuck to your guns. Like you've had him at number one and you're sticking with it. I've seen him drop like significantly. Some people had him at 9, 10, and so on. And but yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting. I think he can go, I think his range can go anywhere from 1 to 10, which is crazy. So
Yeah,
all right.
his range is all over. I mean, for me, I agree. Like your points are completely valid. Like, is he an off-ball wing or a primary guy? That's a huge thing. The handle's there, but if he takes the next step, I think, which I believe he will, that's going to change a lot. Like, I think it'll open up his decision making. I think I lean more positively on the swing skills. I do agree. The tempo of the G League has definitely inflated some of his stuff, but I think there's a lot there.
I'll answer this question. Who has come from the G League and benefited from it?
Yeah, that's fair. I think
I'd say
I
Dyson Daniels is the only guy. I mean, at least from
yeah,
draft stock. But I can't
yeah,
say that the G League guys have come in more prepared.
yeah, which I thought they would. There, there's one guy who I think if he had gone to college, his stock, he would have fallen further and actually would have changed a lot of how the league played out because of who he was drafted in front of. And I think that's Kuminga. He got a really big pass being a young player in the G League, and he still went, what, seventh, I think.
Yeah.
And I think he's somebody who only in terms of draft stock, it didn't get worse. Whereas you have Jaden Hardy, who slipped to the second round after being a top guy. It's a real concern that everybody that's gone there for the most part, nobody's had a better stock.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dyson Daniels, it improved his stock because I don't think anybody saw him as a lottery pick. I think Tyler Smith, I think his draft stock has been boosted by playing for the Ignite this year. I mean, it didn't work out for Hardy. Maybe Beauchamp, Marjon Beauchamp, maybe it helped him out. I think a lot of stuff you're seeing with Jalen Green, the struggles this year, even though he's kind of turned it on the last few games, but I think a lot of the struggles are related to he hasn't had any incentive to like win from the G League to the first couple years in Houston, and now it's been an adjustment for he's got to try to win, and the style has changed. I mean, Scoot's been, I mean, it's like 36%, and he was supposed to be the most ready out of all of them. So I do have some concerns about the G League guys being ready for the next level. And maybe it's because we expected them to have a big advantage by being professionals, but so far they haven't had any advantages. All right, Alex Sarr, you teased it, number 2.
Yep.
And what are your thoughts on Sarr?
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you said, right? Where it's like an easy role fitting in with the NBA. Like if he gets to the right fit, like he has such an easy job, especially offensively, where he's just right away, at least he's a play finisher and a very capable play finisher. A lot of times it gets kind of as a negative kind of stigma with that term because it means you're limited, but he's not. I think it's just something as a center, you're just more likely to be a play finisher than any other position. And honestly, I think as he develops his shot, everything's going to open up. Like that's really where, as that comes along, the rest of his game will come along. But I love his athleticism. His physical tools are just off the charts. And because of that, I just feel like we're projecting tools, and it's very easy to see why he's not somebody that's, all tools, no production. He has produced. So I like him as probably the number one pick.
Yeah, man, he's so talented. And I've said it in the past, talent was never the issue with him. It was just the motor and the production and the talent didn't always match up, but you're starting to see flashes, and he's looking like, he's going to be a problem down the line, especially like you said, if the shot opens up. But just the way he moves and long strides to the rim, I think he's a good passer. I think defensively, he's going to be a stud. And, the play that comes to mind is the play when they went against Ignite and Ron had him in isolation and he was able to get down and just match him step by step. And Ron is extremely fast. And for Sarr to be able to move with them, that just shows that he's going to be able to defend all over the floor. All right, when we return, we'll talk about who is number 3 on Richard's list. But let's talk about eBay Motors, because passion, drive, and patience, that is what brings home the winning trophy, but it is also what keeps your car alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. And they have over 122 million parts for your car, so you'll always find exactly what you are looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, the part is guaranteed to fit every time, or you will get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's very easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your car alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, and the eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers. All right, happy Super Bowl to all of those that celebrate from FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. And if you are like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch and grabbing your favorite football snacks and placing some bets. And who do you think is going to win? Kansas City or San Francisco?
Man, I think San Francisco is more talented, but the way they've struggled the last 2 games, give me the Chiefs. I'm not doubting Mahomes anymore. I doubted him the entire playoffs.
And you have, as a fan, you have so many ways to end your season with the W or 2 or 3. And that's why you have to go to FanDuel. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. If you're a new customer, join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, that's $200 in bonus bets. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports book partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Right, we only got to 2 prospects in the first segment. So let's find out who is number 3 on Richard's list. First was Ron Holland, and number 2 was Alex Sarr. Who was number 3?
Yeah, we're going continent to continent here. We started with North America with Ron Holland. Alex Sarr is playing in Australia. We're going to go to Europe. I got Nikola. Man, is it Topic or Topic? I've heard both.
Wow, I mean,
we'll go with him though. I personally I love his game being a tall ball handler, but I thought this was really interesting. If you look at some of the guys, he hasn't necessarily been teammates with all these guys, but just the guys that are on the team that he got transferred to, you got this is a wave of throwbacks. If you were deep into draft scouting, there's Joel Bollenboy, Mike Tobey, Shabazz Napier, Marco Simonovic, who was on the Bulls last year, Javonte Smart, Freddie Gillespie, and then also former NBAer Nemanja Bjelica. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
You forgot the greatest passer of
all
time.
Who did I miss?
As far as creativity, Milos Teodosic. He is.
Oh, whoa! I didn't even. My eye just escaped right over him. He's still playing.
Yeah, man. He's been throwing some crazy passes. I mean, he's my favorite passer of all time. I mean,
he's so fun.
Too young for Pistol Pete, but Milos, man, I wish the situation with the Clippers would have worked out. He has some
Yep.
injuries, but man, he is the most gifted passer in my opinion ever.
Yeah, and that's somebody good for Topic to learn from. Like I like his game a lot. I mean, he's what, 6, depending on the day, he's anywhere over 6'6". That's a guarantee. But from there, you can pick how tall he is. But with me, I really like Topic because I buy the shot. The playmaking out of the pick and roll was phenomenal. I think he's comfortable with both hands. When you look at what the guards, like the foundation for a big guard to have, I just feel like he has most of it. Jump shot mechanics are a little bit off, but I do think the touch is there. Um, I buy into him a lot.
Yeah, me too. It's crazy because All-Star Weekend is coming up, and he was at Basketball Without Borders last year, and I think everybody that was there would have taken Elliot Cadeau over him. He was good. He didn't stand out. Buzelis won MVP, but I mean, like Topic was not one of the hot names. And then right after that, I mean, he took off at the Adidas Next Generation tournament. He had a strong summer, and then I mean, he's just skyrocketed since then. But I like him a lot. Hopefully, he comes back healthy and he's able to show the same flashes. I know his role is going to be significantly reduced with all the guys that you named, but it'll be interesting to see if he can maintain his draft stock because it's as high as it can be right now. All right, who's number 4 on your list?
So this is where I finally have somebody in college basketball. This is the debut of an NCAA basketball player, and it's several players in a row. I have Rob Dillingham. I'm very high on him. I think he is, like, every year we talk about how Kentucky guards this, Kentucky guards that. I think he's going to explode in the NBA with better spacing. And also, I mean, he's competing with Antonio Reeves and DJ Wagner for minutes as well in the backcourt.
Reed
I think
Sheppard.
It's a weird situation. And Reed Sheppard. Yeah. Yeah. And who we'll talk about him later too, but I love the electric scoring ability and just honestly playmaking too from Rob Dillingham. Everything has looked so much better for him than it did at OTE. I know he's matured a lot, both on the court and off the court in that regard, but you look at just the motor, the play, like he's not a strong player at all, but defensively he will not back down. And I love that stuff. Like there's several plays against North Carolina where he was going at Harrison Ingram, RJ Davis, several of those guys who are experienced college players, and he was looking like the veteran on the court.
All right, here's a question for you. If you took off the Ignite's veterans, like you took off Norris Cole and John Jenkins and Melvin Frazier, you had their top young guys versus Kentucky's young guys, who would win? NBA rules.
If the goal is to win, not to have the best stats, because I think there's
if they played a game, who would win? Or let's extend it further. If they played a series, a 5-game series, and again, you're taking off the Ignite's veterans, you're taking off John Jenkins, Norris Cole, those guys, and you're just going young guy for young guy, from Buzelis to Holland to London Johnson to Tyler Smith, Almanza, and they're going against Wagner, Dillingham, Ivisic, because I think Kentucky could possibly have more first-round picks than the Ignite. I mean, they both could end up with 4.
This is really tough. I hate this question because it's so good. I think I'm going to go with the Ignite just because I think Ron Holland would have some favorable matchups there. Personally, I think he'd be able to thrive. But on top of that, like if you're just talking about Dillingham here, my goodness, get him in G League tempo and spacing. His highlight reel would be off the charts. Like his highs would be insane. And I also do think that we would see some crazy high level just playmaking as well. So I would take the Ignite, but I hate this question because it is really, really, really good. My worry is really just 3-point shooting. I don't know if I trust Kentucky to shoot the 3 as well.
Yeah, but who on the Ignite is going to shoot the ball well?
They at least they've been doing it. Kentucky hasn't been doing it in quick tempo. That's why it's a cop-out answer. Also, Almanza against his own competition, against his own age, I'm not going against that. The history suggests they would win.
I like Ivisic over Almanza.
Oh yeah, as a prospect, it's getting there. We'll talk about Almanza another time. I just don't know what to make of him. Like, what do I take as the sample size? There's 3 different ones. I don't know what to look at.
Yep. All right. Who is number 5 on your list?
Yeah. So this is one of your guys. I've got this. This is another guy who, look, I just haven't seen enough to unseat him. I know there's some questions about lateral quickness, but I love Donovan Clingan's game. I think he translates so easily to the NBA. Also, yesterday, Sunday against Xavier, he took a three and it looked really fluid. I was a little bit surprised. Like, I know the shooting touch has always been there, but to make it look that fluid, I was a little bit surprised. It's better than I think the 1 or 2 threes he took last year or something like that, or jumpers. So if he can stretch the floor, I think it'll make up for a lot. But he's so big and he uses it so well on both ends. He has a killer drop step because he's so strong. He can always win that positioning, at least in college. And I know post moves aren't like condoned anymore, for whatever reason, but like it does matter. Like if you get him in transition and he's got the switch, he's winning it. And that stuff is easy points. Like we saw in Embiid's 70-point game. That was one of the things he did was he got a lot of those transition, quick offense, mismatch scores. They matter. So I really like him. He can block shots. He recovers well. Yeah, on an island, he's not the best. How much is his playoff impact? Tough to say, but I do like his game and think he'll be at least a killer regular season player.
Yeah, I dropped him down a little bit just because he didn't look healthy this year. It looks like sitting out that time with this second foot injury over the last 6 months has helped him a little bit. My concern with him is the left hand. Like if you make him go to his left hand, he's coming back right every time. I feel like he leaves points on the board sometimes because he doesn't have a left hand. Like he'll be on the right block and he'll have, to me, just a easy lefty touch shot if he goes middle off his right shoulder, but he'll always come back to the right. But yeah, if he can knock down threes, I'm still not a believer in it because the free throw percentage isn't high. But was he like 8 of 9 yesterday or this weekend? Yeah, I just think for him, I think it's going to come down to the medicals. I think teams are going to be very, very cautious about a 7'2", 280-pound big that's had multiple foot injuries in the last 6 months. So I think that's going to be the key for him. All right, when we return, we will try to finish out Richard's top 10. All right, before we get into the last segment, we're going to talk about our new sponsor. It is called Quiiiz, Quiiiz with 3 I's. It is the next generation trivia experience. It is also the world's first platform where you can earn money playing knowledge games. And for Locked On NBA Big Board fans, they've created an NBA quiz game where you can test your knowledge and win real cash. You can play with friends or other fans and let your knowledge shine all the way to the bank. You can download anything. Just go to the Quiiiz app or go app.quiiiz.com and start playing today. NBA Quiiiz is the ultimate knowledge challenge for fans that live and breathe basketball. So I got a question for you, Richard. It's a simple one. Who holds the Mavericks record for most points in a game?
Oh man, this is tough. I don't know. I have no idea. Who could it be?
That game was crazy. Luka has 73 points. So go to the Quiiiz app or app Quiiiz, app.quiiiz.com to test your knowledge and win cash today. That's Quiiiz with 3 I's, just like a three-pointer. Play now, showcase your skills, and take home cash prizes. Appquiiiz.com. Remember, Quiiiz.com, and that's where fans become champions. All right, we left off at Donovan Clingan. So we'll start off.
That's number 5.
That's number 5. We had Ron Holland, number 1, Alex Sarr, number 2, Nikola Topic, 3, Rob Dillingham, 4, Donovan Clingan, 5. So this is shaping out to be unique. I haven't seen those 5 in the top 5 in anybody's big board or ranking. So I like this. Who's next?
That makes me very confident. Yeah, like I said, I'm confident that I'm not confident in this. But next, I'm staying at Connecticut. I got Stephon Castle. I was big on him in high school. I think he showed a lot still at UConn to really show that he can translate up. My one thing I want to see with him is just, at least in the Xavier game, I don't know if I need to go back and check if this was all the games or something, but he really, really relies on picking up his dribble near the free throw line and then doing a step through. I'd like to see him just come up with a different creative move to finish. So one of his more, at least in that game, he did it 3 or 4 times. Not sure if it's something I need to pick up on again, but other than that, I just really like his feel for the game. It's a little bit underrated athletically because he doesn't have a killer first step or anything, but he's still vertically athletic. So I like him.
He has great pace. Like he reminds me of Markelle Fultz with his pace. Fultz is a good athlete. His game just isn't built off athleticism and blow by speed, but it's sneaky in a sense. But there's like this smoothness and there's this great pace that I like. And Castle's a good passer. I mean, the big concern is the jump shot. He's a reluctant shooter. He does have a tendency to pass up jump shots or whatever, but his combination of size and skill and passing and ball handling is what the NBA. I mean, he plays a coveted position. My question to you is: do you think he is a primary ball handler, or do you think he's a connector?
Yeah, that's really where the value prop comes in. Is if he's a connector, he's not a top 10 guy. But if he is that primary, he's absolutely the sixth best player. So at the moment, I'm leaning towards the primary, but I think that's something that's going to shape where his ranking ends up at.
All right, who comes in at number 7 for you?
Yeah, I got JaKobe Walter. I know he's not been the most efficient this year, but I love his jump shot. I love his scoring ability. I think he's a guy that he's inefficient now, but he's somebody that I think in the next level, as he not only improves his game, but like with NBA spacing, context, all that, he'll get more efficient. I think he's going to get really good looks. It's a win, not if. So I really like that. But defensively, he's a little bit stiff. I'm not a huge fan. I think he's very easy to beat on defense as well. And he doesn't. One of the other things too is like he just doesn't bulldoze guys when he show. Like he's got a skinny point guard on him. He plays it there. He lets them control him defensively as a slasher.
I think with JaKobe, I think he's a better passer than we see in college. We saw that with Keontae George last year. I think a lot of people are surprised at his court vision in the passing. We didn't see that. I mean, we saw some flashes of it, like very small glimpses of it. But I think Walter, if you go back and watch some of his high school tape, he's a much better passer than what he's been able to show. So we'll see if that translates to the next level. But I like Walter. All right, number 8. Who do you have at number 8?
Yeah, going back to the international pool here, I got Risacher on.
Oh, this is the lowest I've seen him. Like he's the guy that a lot of people have really, really high. I definitely have my concerns, but it was just hard for me to discount the production plan in the Euro Cup. But I have some reservations there.
Yeah, I mean, I had similar things. I mean, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, in the U9, was it 18s, U19s? I can't remember. I think it was the U19s. His jump shot looked really good. I wasn't a huge fan of everything else he did. Thought he had some easy rim opportunities that missed. I just went back and forth on him. I didn't think he was super assertive. He did that. Now he's become more assertive. I just kind of want to see what he looks like a little bit in bad games and see how he can really impact the game without his shooting. I think that's something that he struggled with at times. So that's my one reservation on him right now.
So I went to a game in Monaco where I saw where he only had 4 points. He had a 3-pointer and was 1 of 2 from the foul line. I left encouraged despite the poor numbers because he defended Mike James. He picked him up. And if you're like a basketball junkie, you know Mike James is a guy that could be in the NBA. And I think he could be a high rotation player. He just loves Europe. And also, he's last I looked, he's like 91 points away from being the EuroLeague's all-time leading scorer. So there's some incentive there for him to stay in Europe. And Monaco's like a beautiful place to play and live. So, I mean, I'd rather live in Monaco than, I don't want to say the wrong NBA city and turn the fan base off, but there are definitely very few cities in the United States that could rival Monaco as far as living. So I get why Mike James stays there, but Risacher guarded him full court. And Mike James is like 5'10", 5'11". Risacher, I think he's 6'10". He's bigger than what I saw him listed at 6'8". I think some reports are now having about 6'9", 6'10". I think he's legit 6'10", can move his feet. The tools are there. Just my concern is he does have moments where he doesn't impact the game. And then it's also hard for me, which I have him pretty high, but I still have reservations of taking a guy that high that is not a shot creator, that can't create his own shot. That
so
is going to be in my opinion, the fourth best. If he maxes out, I think he'd be the fourth best player on a really good team. And that's tough to
Yeah,
take in the top five. But with this class, everybody gets a bump.
yeah. My one thing I should have clarified offensively is what I meant with the impact. You're right. Defensively, I think he is impactful, even
Yep.
when he's not scoring. Like that is 100% correct. It's more the offense. I should have clarified, but also agreed. I don't know if he tops out as like even a third best player on a team. And
Yeah,
that's
I
why I'm like
mean,
eight.
I've seen the Michael Porter Jr. comparisons, which I mean, it's if you never saw what Michael Porter did before the NBA and just see what you see now as the what I mean, he their second. I mean, is he their third leading scorer? But I would say if he's their third leading scorer, I still think he's their fourth best player. And so I think for Risacher, that could be a path. I mean, somebody else compared him to Nick Batum. I mean, that may be a French thing. I mean, they're both tall. I think Batum is more point forward-ish than Risacher. I think Risacher is a good ball mover, but I thought Batum was a guy that you could kind of initiate the offense to if you had like a dynamic, like scoring point guard that you wanted to put off the ball, and you could
Yep.
play Batum. All right, so we had number 9. Who's number 9 on your list?
Yeah, I got Reed Sheppard. I love his. He's not actually a good in a traditional sense. He's not what you would call a good defender, where he's not going to clamp guys. But my goodness, he is so good at creating chaos and getting like. I remember at the very beginning of the season, it was an ESPN broadcaster. They said like he is good for 2 steals a night, no matter how it happens. It could be the last 2 plays of the game. He's going to get it. And I do think there is value to that, where he's always creating chaos. He's always being able to make plays on the defensive end. And like the jump shot is super real. My one thing is, I don't think he's a point guard. What does his, like, is he a combo guard? Like, how good is his point guard skills and where does that take him in an NBA landscape?
I mean, he's a ball player. Like to me, he's not as big as Grayson Allen, I don't believe, but he is like the perfect guy to have on a team like the Phoenix Suns, where you got your 3 all-star guys, and his job is just to space the floor, be that threat, make defenses say like, "Dang, we can't help out," because he's not gonna miss. I think he's like the perfect complementary guard that helps your superstar score 50, 60 points because you can't help out. And if you help out, he's going to knock down the shot. So, but I think fit, like all these guys, is going to be important. I think if you put him in Atlanta, no, that's not going to be a good situation. But if you put him, I mean, I even think like a team like the Lakers, he could help a team like that with his outside shooting. So I like
Yeah.
Reed Sheppard. All right, the last one. Who is numero 10? I like my
Yeah,
Spanglish there.
I got Cody Williams. I got Cody Williams here. I buy his defense. I buy his finishing. I don't know where I could stand on everything else because he's very raw. But here's my thing with raw guys, you don't want to see them. I think an old thing of the past. Remember James Young, for example. He was one of the most raw players I've ever seen. But man, he oozed with like just open court talent. I don't think Cody Williams is that kind of mold. I do think there's real things there. He was really rough in the USA for Team USA in the summer,
Mhm.
in the U19s, but he's come a long way in that regard. I think it was kind of a weird fit. My biggest thing I've seen every single time, like as a slasher, where I'm like, why is this not happening? Is he will reject so many open drives because it feels like he has premeditated some plays. And if he reduces that habit while also just getting stronger, becoming more assertive, doing all the generic right things, we're looking at somebody who has one of the highest ceilings in the draft.
Yeah, he's interesting. I've seen Yahoo has him at number 1. I've seen some other sites had him as high as number 2. My brother's not as high on him. I think we're gonna do a episode or what's the difference between him and Ron Holland, because it's weird. There's some people that are high on Cody, they're not high on Ron, and then there's the vice versa. Like you got Ron 1, you got Cody 10, and so we're probably gonna do an episode on that. But then I've also heard, and I heard this before the season, there was a guy that said to me, I like Cody Williams. I think people are going to overrate him because they are going to fear that missing out on him could be similar to when teams missed out on his brother. He said he didn't think Cody was as good as Jalen, but he felt like he's going to get the bump up because there are some general managers that look silly for passing on Cody Williams. And you look at the Washington Wizards took, what's my man's name? Johnny Davis over Cody Williams. So, and it's funny because, like I said, he told me this before the season. But anyway, Cody Williams, that's a guy. I think his draft range, I think is one. I think he's a lottery pick. I think it's set in stone. I know he had a couple big games. Then I want to say he had a stinker this weekend where he didn't put up big numbers. Yep. So this draft is just all over the place. I mean, it's tough. I did my top 75 on my big board, and there were guys that I felt like, man, do I need to extend this list to 85? Do I need to extend it to 100? Because this guy can get drafted. I mean, this draft is all over the place, and it's going to be such a difficult draft for everybody involved. But I like it. I really like it. Well, that wraps up this episode. Richard dropped off his top 10 picks in this big board, or top 10 prospects in this big board. In the next episode, Leaf Tulane is going to share with us his top 10 guys, and we'll see how different it is for Richard's list, James's list, and Leaf's list. I put out mine. It's on NBABigBoard.com. Check it out. Once again, it's Rafael Barlowe with Richard Stayman, and we are out.